You know what's crazy? I have driven past this place countless times without ever really knowing what it was and what was really going on in there. Deep inside the San Francisco Bay lies this place. It's an island where they once built some of the most powerful warships in American naval history. I'm pretty excited to explore this place because this isn't just any naval base. For almost 150 years, Mare Island was part of the American military might. From the Civil War to the Cold War, Mare Island serviced and built all kinds of naval vessels, vessels that patrolled the globe and kept us safe. So what do you say we get going? If we think about 1853, when this place was built, commissioned, I guess you would say, that was a pretty uncertain time on the west coast of the United States. California was new, and there was a ton of money coming out of the Sierra Nevada because of the gold rush. Well, other nations, apparently Britain and Spain and Russia, I mean, there were other really powerful nations who were looking at California and thinking, you know, if we sailed into the San Francisco Bay, we might be able to take that area and all of that gold coming out of the Sierra Nevada, it would be ours. Well, the folks in Washington said, no, that's not going to happen. And they did a couple of things right off the bat. They created Fort Point at the mouth of the Golden Gate Bridge. I did a video on that, so you can find that place. And they created this place, Mare Island Naval Shipyard. And this place was so important for so long, I'm really surprised that I had no idea that it was even here. This place was actually born out of paranoia and fear. We had to come up with a way to project strength, to create a defense system for this part of the United States. And Mare Island was the way that we did that. So today I'm wandering around Mare Island and I came across this, and this is the oldest naval cemetery on the west coast of California. There's about 900 souls buried here, and I believe the first one was buried in 1854 or so, and then I believe the last one maybe around World War II. Francis Scott Key's daughter is buried here, and there are 6 Russian sailors who are buried here who died fighting the fire in San Francisco in 1863. And as a way of honoring them, they buried them here. Up on the hill, there's a section for children, and that kind of takes the wind out of my sails. Something about these military cemeteries, when I'm in one, it just puts me on my heels a little bit because I feel like I'm kind of standing on the shoulders of giants. These are people who took care of this country at various times and gave their lives doing that. And I have so much respect, and I'm so thankful for what they gave. I don't know about you, but I found the story of how this place got its name kind of fascinating. Mariano Vallejo, and if you're interested in California history, you should look him up. He had a favorite mare, a favorite female horse, and apparently that horse fell or swam, or I don't know how they got into the Carquinez Strait, which is a waterway here, and ended up swimming across the strait and ending up here on this island, and thus the name, Mare Island. Okay, something I have done a poor job of sharing with you guys is my love of cinematography. When I go out and tell these stories and do these videos, my favorite part is probably capturing the images, and I hope you enjoy those images because everything you see, with the exception of the really kind of archival historical stuff, was captured by me and my eye. And as far as this hat goes, why I wear it backwards, it's not because I think I'm some cool kid, because, you know, I'm not. But when I have it around forward sometimes, you know, it hits. And then I turn it around when I'm shooting, and then I literally forget that it's turned around backwards. So between 1865, at the conclusion of the Civil War and the beginning of World War I, this place became really important. They put a dry dock in, dry dock number 1, I think, in 1872. And that allowed them to build different types of ships and be more efficient at it. And if we think about the United States at that time, projecting our strength out into the Pacific became an important thing. I think it was manifest destiny where we really started to flex our muscles and say, hey, We are a powerful nation. And this particular place, Mare Island, it was one of the things that allowed us to project that strength out into the Pacific. Apparently, I'm not supposed to be in this area, but that old guy, he told me it was okay and told me how I could kind of get in here. I'm not going to give it away to you guys, but if I end up in the clink, we'll know why. I'm in the marine area of the naval base. Now, apparently behind me, you can see there's a waterway. And when the ships came in, the Marines unloaded all of the ordnance from the ships because they were going to head on into the naval base and then they were going to get worked on or whatever. And they didn't want the explosives down there, which makes a lot of sense. And if you look at this, I'm not sure if you get a good look here. I'm guessing, I'm not sure, but I'm guessing these warehouses, you can see how they're tucked in underneath this berm. And so if something did explode, it would go out and not towards us. Now, that's a total guess for me, but it makes a certain amount of sense. And based on what this older guy told me, I'm going to go with it. Standing here now, it's hard to imagine the tension that must have filled this area around World War I. The U.S. lived in fear of German naval attacks, with U-boats potentially lurking off the coast and saboteurs threatening American shores. Germany's pre-war presence in China and the Pacific Islands made fear here on the West Coast really quite real. The response here on Mare Island was impressive, and this place kicked into high gear. It started to create naval vessels at a very fast clip. They produced warships and destroyers. They created ships that augmented the Pacific fleet and allowed us to feel that much more secure during World War I. I know it seems like World War I was a long ways away, and it was, but this idea of protecting the West Coast and projecting strength out into the Pacific, it all originated here at Mare Island. And one of the cool things about this place, from a World War I standpoint, this place was protected. It is deep into the San Francisco Bay, and it wouldn't be easy to get through all of the defenses that were in place to get here. So they felt comfortable kind of putting strategic energy here and building these different types of vessels and arming them and doing all of the things that they needed to do at this naval base. This just totally blows my mind that at one point in history, this place was full of people and they were working on things for the defense of the United States of America. And I'm able to wander around here and experience this because you guys watch the videos, and I just want to thank you for that. Now, as I'm walking around Mare Island today, a lot of what I'm seeing is decaying and not in use anymore, obviously. But this place saw explosive growth during World War II. It went from, I believe, 7,000 or 8,000 people who were stationed here to over 45,000 people. And because the Pacific Theater was such a big part of World War II, Mare Island was hugely important to the war effort in the Pacific. Okay, I got to read this because this is actually crazy. Mare Island's production during these years was insane. The shipyard repaired over 1,200 ships, launched 17 submarines, 4 submarine tenders, and numerous other vessels. I don't know what those are, other vessels. When Pearl Harbor was attacked, Mare Island worked on repairing ships damaged in the Pearl Harbor attack. And of course, the war changed everything about who actually worked here. Rosie the Riveter women were welcomed into the workforce because we needed people. And this was one of the first places where they desegregated the workforce, and blacks and other races were brought in to work here on anything that needed doing. And because there was so much that needed doing, everyone pitched in. Behind me is a building, and I have no idea what they did in there, but I do know by looking at it, it looks like they built it in the 50s or the 60s. Right over there is a brick building that's probably 75 years older than that one. And over there is a completely different style of building. And that just shows you how long this place was here and how it grew over time and how the styles of the buildings kind of changed with the time. So at the close of World War II, this place had been here for almost 100 years, and it had gone through so many changes and evolved in so many ways. And after the drawdown of people at the conclusion of World War II, obviously it didn't need as many people, they weren't creating as much stuff. There was a big change, and that change is we went from a hot war to a Cold War. And one of the really key kind of developments was the nuclear submarine in regards to kind of America and our power during the Cold War. And they had to retool this place so that they could service and repair and build these vessels because we needed to grow that fleet. And that's what they did. This particular base was instrumental in kind of ongoing service and maintenance of the nuclear submarine fleet. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here because I did some research on this, and there's nothing that is really written down about this, but I have to believe that the connection of University of California at Berkeley, Stanford University, and the need to create these nuclear submarines, there had to be some synergy there. And those universities must have contributed to what was going on here in some way. Now, I would love to hear from you guys on that. Do you think that I am absolutely crazy and just making stuff up? Or do you think that maybe there is a connection? And if you know of any research that I can share in the community notes, whatnot, I will do that. So please, if you know something and can shed light on this, love to hear from you. Just so we all know, I'm not the first one to sneak around back here. Every time I come up to a box like so, the copper inside is gone. So there have been people here harvesting all the copper, and they have cleared this place out. So by the early 1980s, things really started to change around here. We no longer needed as much as we had once needed in the way of base facilities. And between 1980 and 1993, this place continued to kind of become smaller and less relevant. It was in 1996 that this base was decommissioned and closed. And after 142 years, it went silent. Now, walking around here today and experiencing it and getting a sense of what this place must have been like, well, that was a treat for me. And I hope that you enjoyed spending time with me here at Mare Island.